The love I felt for her was beyond anything I have ever felt. And so this is one of my biggest mum guilts, is that I then didn't feel that with Penelope. Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm Gemma. I've got two daughters, Elizabeth and Penelope, hence the name Ellie and Nellie. So I wanted to talk about mum guilt in today's video because I think this is something that affects most mums, if not every single mum. But I also think a lot of mums keep these thoughts to themselves because they're not sure if it's a normal thing to be feeling. When the reality is having a baby is one of the most life-changing things you're ever going to go through. It's completely normal for our minds to kind of struggle with this, even if it's something that we've planned for so long or it was complete surprise. Either way, I don't think you can actually prepare anyone for the realization of what motherhood actually entails. So my reasoning behind making this video was to kind of try and normalize mum guilt. There's a lot of different thoughts and feelings and mindsets that new mothers come across that they may not have ever come across before. You've got the baby blues, you've got postpartum depression or postpartum anxiety, and then somewhere in the middle is the mum guilt, and some mothers may have one of these, some mothers may have all of these. And it's just important that as a new mother, when you're at your most vulnerable time, that you know that it's a normal thing to feel. So baby blues is a period of days after you've had your baby where your hormones suddenly come crashing down and it kind of hits you that you've had a baby. It varies for everyone how much it might impact you as a new mother, but because hormones are so strong, they can absolutely flip everything you feel into the complete opposite. Many mothers might just feel really strong mum guilt during the baby blues. Others may feel mum guilt throughout the rest of time. But I think because we've suddenly become in charge of someone else's life, it's very normal to feel guilt over things they may feel or things that may happen to our children. So I'm going to list some of the things that I have personally felt guilty about with both Elizabeth and Penelope. The things I felt guilty about with Elizabeth were kind of, now that I think about them, they were silly things, because as a first-time mum, I think I felt guilty about anything, and I mean anything. And then with Penelope, I'd say the guilt was a bit stronger, but I wasn't in the best headspace, so the guilt didn't really hit me until later on when she was a tiny bit bigger. But the kind of guilt that I felt with Elizabeth was I used to worry because she was too happy. She was always smiling, she never cried, she would sleep whenever we wanted her to sleep, she just did whatever we asked her to do, or it worried me. As a first-time mum, I was like, is this normal? She doesn't cry or fight against anything we're asking her to do. Obviously, when you're expecting your first baby, everyone says, oh, it's never going to be quiet again, and they go on and on about things like baby crying and you're never going to get any sleep. And yes, she got up in the night every now and again, but it definitely wasn't as bad as what people were telling me. So yeah, the first mum guilt I felt was worrying whether it was normal for my child to be too happy. So that one puts it into a little bit of perspective. I also was guilty right at the beginning because I couldn't breastfeed her very well. I've already mentioned this in my other video, in my breastfeeding struggles video, which I'll pop up here. But as anyone would say to any other mother, as long as your baby's fed, it doesn't really matter. I was still feeding her my breast milk, but because she wasn't feeding from me, guilt was felt. I also felt guilty because I didn't get the first cuddle with Elizabeth. I was past her for a moment, but then I kind of passed out and stuff. So she was handed straight back to her dad, which it didn't affect me at the time because there was a lot more going on. But then as time went on and you get that deep love and connection with your baby, I remember feeling guilty that I didn't get that first cuddle. But I mean, it's not affected her now. So at the time it feels like the worst thing in the world, but then as time goes on, you get perspective on all these things that you have felt in the past and you think, what a silly thing to think. See, I personally feel like a first-time mum and a second-time mum, there's a big difference. I had a lot of time with Elizabeth as my first to just sit and stare at her. The love I felt for her initially was beyond anything I have ever felt. And so this one's one of my biggest mum guilt, is that I then didn't feel that with Penelope. So she's now 7 months now, and I can kind of look back on that time and realise why that was. We'd just moved house, we were renovating a house. I had a toddler running around. She just learnt to walk, so she wasn't even just crawling around, she was running around. There is just no time to sit and stare at a new baby when you have a toddler in the house. There is just not, if I was to try and sit and just look at Penelope, Elizabeth would be like, what are you doing? She would drag me up off the sofa, she'd be like, no. But yeah, with Penelope, I think it took until she was about 6 months old before. It's hard to explain because it's not that I didn't love her, and it's not that I didn't want her. I've always wanted her, I've always loved her, and I've always looked at her and thought, she's beautiful, like she's still my baby and I love her. I just haven't had that same overwhelming sense of absolute adoration. I don't even know. Adoration, I don't know, however way you say it. So that is a big guilt for me, because I look back and I don't have as many videos of her, I don't have as many pictures of her, and that's hard to think about, because then I look back at the videos that I do have of her, and she was such a cute little baby. She was also a more difficult baby, and I think to myself, was that because I didn't bond with her as well as I did with Elizabeth? And so again, it's more guilt. Everything that happens sparks more guilty thoughts. I think, why didn't I bond with her as much? And I think how unfair that is on her. And it's horrible, it is. It's a horrible feeling. But I know that there'll be other mothers out there that feel these things too, and it's normal. And I think my relationship with Penelope has strengthened so much. She's at like my favourite age anyway now, so she's crawling and sitting and she's chatting, like baby babbling and all that sort of stuff, and that's my favourite age, so there's definitely a bond coming through that. I've also felt guilt about the future, so whether when they go to school, will they have friends, will they be bullied, will one of them feel left out, like if I do things with one and not the other. And it's like, again, sat here talking about that makes me think, well, how can I feel guilty about something that hasn't even happened yet? So again, not necessary, but very normal to feel. I've also felt guilty in the past for going on nights out, so obviously without them, if my mum's looked after them or whoever. I think to myself, well, what advice would I give to another mother who looks after her children all day long, every day, doesn't get much of a break? Would I tell her, you shouldn't go on a night out? Would I say that? No, I wouldn't. And even as a working mother, if you are at work all day working really hard, and then you come home and spend all evening with the kids, potentially even up once or twice in the night with the kids, and then again you're back at work, all this, would I say to that mother, you shouldn't go on a night out because
you're at work all day?
No, I wouldn't. I'd tell her that you work really hard, you need a night off. I think it's very important as well, so when you feel guilt like this, to step out of your shoes and consider what you would tell someone else, what advice you would give another mother for those same feelings that you are having. You always have to bring it back to the hormones. You have to remember there's so many hormones going through our bodies right now. Just like when we're on our period and we're a bit snappy, we can't help it. So just think about that, think on that one. And also remember that you're feeling guilty because you are a good mother that cares about her children. I think I'm going to leave it there now, because that's kind of the base of most of the mum guilts that I've felt. But I felt them all in many different shapes and forms, but this was just my way of letting anyone that's watching this video know that it's totally normal. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please leave it a like, and if you want to watch anything more from me, then please do subscribe as well.